Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invests. In this June quarter Appendix 5B video, I'll be focusing on a company called Image Resources. If you don't know what Appendix 5B is, it's just the quarterly cash flow report for a mining company. The vast majority of Appendix 5Bs are for mining companies that are explorers, so they have no cash flow whatever. Image Resources is a little bit different. They've recently gone to production, maybe 2 years ago. And so they are still issuing their Appendix 5B, and they are cash flow positive. Image Resources is all about mineral sands. There are a few companies that do have or are producing mineral sands. For instance, Image Resources, Base Resources, and also Aluka, which is probably the biggest of the three. There may be some others out there, but those are three I can remember right now. So before we have a look at their Appendix 5B for the June quarter, let's have a look at some of the financial facts in regards to this company. Before I look at some of the financial facts in regards to Image Resources, when they produce something, it's called a heavy mineral concentrate, HMC. They sell that to someone, and then that someone then separates that heavy mineral concentrate into two parts, zircon and titanium dioxide. Now, this is what I've come to understand after reading into this company yesterday. So I could be mistaken, but if I am mistaken, leave a comment to correct me, because that's how I learn. If I make mistakes, you correct me. Now, 80% of their heavy mineral concentrate is zircon. The other 20% is titanium dioxide. In reality, Image Resources share price should mirror zircon prices, but over the past month really hasn't done that. We've seen the zircon prices really take off, and I'll talk about that later in this video. On the other hand, Image Resources share price has pulled back because generally commodity prices have fallen, so it seems like Image Resources share price is mirroring this general sell-off in commodities. We've seen iron ore prices fall off a cliff in the past few weeks, really affecting all those iron ore mining companies. Anyway, ticker code of Image Resources, MIMA. Market cap of this company at 18 cents. Not too high, 175 million. And the reason I say it's not too high is because in the half year, they had $85 million of receipts and were operational cash flow positive by 24.4 million. That's in one half year. They also net cash 38 million, no debt. They paid off all their debt in the last few quarters, and they've issued their first dividend, so the inaugural dividend at 2 cents. So with a share price of 18 cents, that means the dividend yield of this company is 11%. There's no reason why they can't continue issuing that dividend at 2 cents. Could be even higher, particularly because zircon prices are increasing, and there is a possibility we might see this company just produce prodigious amount of cash in the next few quarters or even the next few halves. If you want more information on this company, go to the website, have a look at some of their presentations. Mining companies like this should release quite a few presentations to entice new shareholders to think about buying into their company, or just go have a look at their Appendix 5B or their activities report released around that time as well, which was released on the 29th of July. Before we have a look at the June quarter results for Image Resources, I do want to go back to the March quarter to see how the company was performing at that point in time, and then see how they've progressed over time. I think it's very important to look at numerous quarters for most companies, because you can't look at one quarter in isolation and judge the performance of that company on the one quarter. I do believe that is a mistake some investors do make, not only with quarter reports, but also half-yearly and yearly reports. Receipts at customers in the March quarter, 50.7 million. So that's pretty good for a quarter. And they were operational cash flow positive in the one quarter by $18.3 million. One of the most important things management have to decide with the cash flow they receive in operations is what they do with that cash. And Image Resources management have decided they want to repay their debt. So they repaid $17.2 million of debt. I applaud management for doing that. I think that's a very good use of the money they've made in their business. And it also means their cash on hand didn't grow or fall during the quarter, it remained around $51 million. Now let's have a look at the June quarter results. Receipts and customers actually did fall by 17 million. There is a reason behind it. And this is the whole reason you can't look at one quarter results in isolation. And even if you look at 2 quarters, you might say receipts have really gone down. The business might be in trouble here, but there is a reason behind it. I'll talk about that in the next slide also. Receipts and customers, 34 million, but even though it had fallen, they were still operational cash flow positive by $6 million. Now, they've repaid their debt, so they've decided they don't have to, spend $18 million repaying debt. So instead, they're going to pay a dividend. So they paid $19 million of dividends, at 2 cents per share, which also meant because they weren't as operational cash flow positive for this quarter, the cash in the business did drop by $13 million and finished the quarter and the first 6 months of their financial year at $38 million. Now let's have a look at why receipts actually did fall for this quarter. This is a really interesting table the company did provide in their announcement. And I really want to focus on the 2 rows here. What they're looking at here is heavy mineral concentrate production, sales, and realized price. Those are the 3 things I really want to concentrate. And they're comparing the March quarter to the June quarter 2021, and then also comparing that to the June quarter 2020. The main takeaways from this is production actually increased between the March and June quarter by 20%, from 85.2 kilotons to 102.3 kilotons. But even though production actually rose quarter on quarter, sales actually fell 20%. And that's the reason why cash receipts fell in the June quarter, simply because they sold less. So it seems like their inventory and their stockpile has increased over the past 3 months. And one of the reasons I think maybe they decided to sell less, and it simply could be just shipping timings. That's all it could be. I haven't looked at any of the commentary, and maybe I should by now. But one of the reasons possibly they decided to stockpile some of their products a little bit, because the realized price of HMC actually fell from the June quarter 2020 to the March quarter 2021 from $637 per ton to $463 per ton. But it has shown signs of rising in the June quarter from 463 to 502, and more than likely, based off the chatter out there and some of the zircon prices we're seeing going through the roof, the June or the September quarter realized price might be significantly higher. And because they are stockpiling, there is potential we might see sales actually exceed the sales we saw in the March quarter. And if we've seen the realized price of heavy mineral concentrate rise, and there are indications it is rising, and if they can sell a little bit more, there is potential the September quarter cash flow in this business is going to exceed what we saw in the March quarter. I think that is definitely in play here. They've also given guidance for the calendar year 2021 in regards to production and sales, and they haven't really changed that at all at this point in time. So at this point, moving forward for Image Resources, the share price should mirror Zircon because no guidance has changed. To understand Image Resources, I think it's a good idea to understand what's happening with Zircon prices, because Zircon sales for Image Resources represents 80% of their total revenue and is approximately 6% of global production. And as I went through their Appendix 5B, I found this very interesting bit of commentary from the company. It just mentions that Zircon prices have risen sharply since April 2021. Now, I am going to accept this is the truth. There's no reason why Image Resources would lie about something like that. But instead of just accepting that, I want to understand why Zircon prices have risen sharply over the past 4 months. There must be some sort of reason. And more than likely, it's going to be something to do with supply or demand, because everything when it comes to commodity prices have to do with supply and demand. They also mention how the exchange rates, Australian dollar to US dollar exchange rates, are favorable for Image Resources. I'm not going to touch upon that in this video, but it's very important to understand how the exchange rates can affect any business you have in your portfolio, and that's all I'm going to say on that. But it is favorable for right now for Image Resources. So back to why Zircon prices have risen sharply over the past 4 months. I want to understand why that is happening. And I went or found this website called Zircon, and I'm just assuming that Zircon is fairly bullish on Zircon in the future. And there was this article written on that website from the 11th of August, only 2 weeks from when I'm doing this video. And this article, even though it was fairly short, gave me a lot of clarity about what's happening with Zircon and why Zircon prices are increasing right now. And it's all to do with supply issues because of the closure of this plant in South Africa. And the reason why that plant has closed is because of escalating violence in the region. And this closure of this plant is very important because they supply a large part of the feedstock for production of zirconium chemicals in China, where more than 80% of world production now takes place. They also mention in the article how another major supplier, Luca Resources, have channeled most of their premium grade zircon into the ceramics industry. I'm not knowledgeable enough to know why that's affecting supply, but they've mentioned this in this article, so it must be a reason as well. Now, all this has led to the simple fact that if demand is not changing, and there's no reason to suspect the demand is changing, and if you decrease the supply of a commodity, that just means with the demand not changing, the price of that commodity must rise. It's all about supply and demand. And that means that zircon prices have skyrocketed over the past 4 months and are reaching levels not seen since the peak in 2011. They also mention that they are likely to run further. Now, I believe that comment that they are likely to run further is a subjective view because this website is called Zircon. They're probably bullish about zircon and they're going to be a little bit biased. But there is that potential, particularly if this plant stays shut over the medium to long term. Briefly touch upon the financial history of Image Resources in this slide from ticker.com, looking at revenue, cash flow from operations, and capital expenditure. I'll just touch upon capital expenditure fairly quickly. Before they went into production, they did spend a fair bit of money on spending to get into production. So about $65 million in the 2.5 years before they went into production. And as soon as they went into production, capital expenditure fell away, not to zero, because just like every mining company, they still have to spend money on that capital expenditure. But the main thing to take away from the financial history of Image Resources, even though it's a small sample size, is they do have revenue and they are operational cash flow positive by a fair bit. And because they are operational cash flow positive by a fair bit, a lot of money coming into the business, they're able to pay down their debt fairly quickly and start issuing dividends. And finally, to the weekly chart for Image Resources, going back to the middle of 2015. Before the company went into production, we were seeing the share price rise. In fact, it rose quite nicely from about 4 cents to a high of 30 cents in about 2.5, 3 years. And it seems like as soon as the company went into production, the market, became less interested in this company. We have actually seen the share price fall away. The main thing I really want to focus on is the share price performance over the past 4 months, ever since zircon prices have started to skyrocket. We haven't seen the same thing happen with Image Resources share price. So it seems to me there might be a disconnect between the performance of Image Resources share price and the zircon prices. They should be mirroring each other, in my opinion, but they're not. So there is potential with this disconnect between the market and Image Resources share price. There is potential right now because there is possibility when Image Resources release their September quarter results, they will be stellar simply because of the zircon prices and the favorable exchange rates in this company. So the question I have for myself is why there is this disconnect, because the market should be forward looking. So I could be missing something. Now, if I'm not missing something here, this is potentially a really good time to buy into this company. At current share prices around 18 cents. Only 15 more standalone videos to do on companies that have achieved an operational cash flow positive June quarter. To achieve my mission, I still have to do a few group videos as well. Have a look out for videos on these 4 companies over the next week: Point Terra, Fluence, Tesseract, and Red River. Looking forward to do videos on Point Terra and Tesseract. Those 2 companies are quite popular among viewers of this video and retail investors on the ASX. Also quite interested in Fluence, and I'm also interested in Red River as an ex-shareholder. Hope you've enjoyed this June quarter Appendix 5B video for Image Resources. I've enjoyed actually doing research on this company. And as I delve deeper into Image Resources, I've become more interested in taking a position in this company, particularly because Zircon prices are skyrocketing right now. If you do have any questions, or if you do have any insight about this company and about Zircon, I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear it, particularly if they are different than mine. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.